Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bound to Talk Basketball. I'm Blake Walker. He is Joey Kearns. It is good to see everyone. Hopefully, everyone enjoyed the girls' basketball episode. New year, new boys basketball. We had our rankings out the the week before, a couple days before Christmas. We put out our own Bound rankings, which the way we do it, because I don't know if we fully explained it in the post, there's like 6 of us that vote. We added another one. One more guy's going to vote here in this upcoming boys poll here at the end of the week on Saturday. But 7 of us vote. We give our top 10 for each class, and then I put the rankings together based off of the AP style poll. So if you voted a team first, that team gets 10 points. If you voted a team second, that team gets 9 points, so on and so forth, all the way down to number 10. Gets 1 point. So at least Joey, you and I was going to maybe try to get Paul on here, but there's a chance Paul could join. I texted him saying, I was like, hey, we're about to do the podcast if you want to join. He's still on break, so he's probably enjoying his break. But at least you and I can maybe talk about our thoughts. Did you fill it out?
I did fill it out.
Okay, you did fill it out.
Yeah. When I looked through mine and I looked through the one that we had, mine were really different. But I did it strictly off of who I actually thought was better. I didn't really care about the records at all. So
yeah,
maybe that's not the right way to do it, but I don't care.
We'll have to look at what we got. But yeah, so we're going to start through things. 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A. We'll talk about the games to watch this week. We're recording this on Wednesday night. I'm going to try to upload this just tonight to see that way people can have it in the morning, Thursday. So we'll see what happens. And I think next week we are going to shift. We're still going to talk about teams, but we're going to talk about last week's game, this week's games. We're also going to, I think, start opening up the questions for Instagram and whatnot. So if you got questions, make sure to ask them as we get toward the postseason even more. So Joey, we'll start out with 4A. First of all, we're going to say what the rankings were on our side, just because we'll promote our own Bound. The association did put out their own rankings finally. Those came out on the 22nd, so you can always check those out on their website. But our Bound rankings, and I guess we'll talk about them here as we go. Cedar Rapids Kennedy is the number 1 team. Dubuque Senior is our number 2 team. North Scott at 3, Valley at 4, Waukee at 5, Linn-Mar 6th, Centennial 8, Ankeny 9th, Council Bluffs Lincoln is 10 or 9. Excuse me, Ankeny is 8th, Council Bluffs Lincoln is 9th, and Cedar Falls is 10th. I kind of remember who I picked, but at the same time, it's been a couple weeks, so it might slip me. I know I had Cedar Rapids Kennedy number 1. One thing that we were talking about in our group chat was that Waukee ended up above Linn-Mar, which was kind of the big, that was kind of okay. I don't know if everybody that votes is knowing what's happening, but I mean, overall, I think I was happy with our list. I was happy with our rankings for the most part. The association's a little bit higher on Valley, a couple other teams, but overall, I'd say we did decent.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty good. Some of the people in the comments even said they're like, I read one guy's who's like, what's the point of even putting any of those Mississippi Valley teams above the CML teams because they just play better in the end? Which, I mean, maybe you can argue that, but you
can't just assume. We're not ranking to assume. We're ranking the now, and the now is you've only lost such and such, and Waukee lost to Roosevelt. Nothing against Waukee and Roosevelt. Nothing against that. We'll talk about Waukee in a second, but I wasn't going to – I think I put Waukee at 6th or 7th. I definitely did not put Linn-Mar behind Waukee.
No, but, yeah, I think Cedar Rapids, Kennedy, and Dubuque Senior and North Scott actually are the top 3 teams. North Scott is they're pretty tough, and they're over there. Their only loss is to an out-of-state team, so they're essentially undefeated in my eyes. But and then Dubuque Senior's only really big win is Linn-Mar, so I don't know. But
everyone's very hesitant about Linn-Mar, despite having good wins, but they're very close wins. They don't win by a lot. So, that's another thing. Is Linn-Mar truly legit? Let's talk about the teams. Let's kind of run through them here as we go. So Cedar Rapids Kennedy is our number 1. Really no or how do I say this? A couple people didn't have Kennedy at 1, but most of us did have Kennedy at 1. Wins against Marion, Cedar Falls is a good win, Iowa City Liberty, Cedar Rapids, Washington. Trey McCowan, just a junior, 16 points per game. Joseph Bean, 13 points per game. Michael Schlack, 10.8 points per game. A couple other guys scoring pretty well. The number one offense in the class and the number one defense in the class. So they can take it and they can play defense. This looks like almost the same team that we saw last year. Obviously didn't make it far in the tournament, but there's not much difference in this Cedar Rapids Kennedy team.
That's like the thing that it doesn't necessarily make me nervous, but we just thought they were kind of going to run the table last year, and they didn't. I mean, they were undefeated, but then they lost. So they have a big game this weekend. They got Waukee in that showcase. I think that's over in Iowa City. Am I wrong?
Yeah, so that's in Cedar Rapids. That's the MVC CIML showcase. Not every MVC team is playing. Not every CIML team is playing, but I know we're going to do final score graphics for that all day Saturday. So we will talk about some of those games at the end of the episode. But yeah, really, really fun weekend ahead. But you're right, they will get a challenge. And also for the MVC CIML showdown, I talked to Coach Windhorst today of Valley. So I'll talk about that when we talk about Valley here in a second. But apparently they're going to do another one on the 27th of January at Waukee. So I think who you didn't play that they probably think you should end up playing on this weekend, you'll play. So like Waukee plays Kennedy, I guarantee Kennedy plays Valley on the 27th at Waukee. So just something to keep an eye out on. But I don't know. Anything else on Kennedy?
They're tough. They'll be good. And I think if you have the number one offense and the number one defense, like they're going to be able to play. And I think they're the number one team.
Yeah. Valley number 2 in so the way that we're going through these are the actual boys rankings, correct?
Yeah, these are the High School Athletic Association.
Okay, so Valley is number 2. Valley's at number 5, or Valley's number 4 in ours. Valley is 6-1, wins against Dowling, Waukee Northwest, Urbandale, and Johnston, and Norwalk, and Southeast Polk. They did lose to Ankeny Centennial 53-45. I called that game. That was the worst shooting performance Valley has had, and Coach Windhorst would agree. They just did not shoot the ball well. It just didn't go well. He says in his mind they've only played one true put-together game. He thinks that's the Johnston game, the 81-49 game. He said everything else, he's like, we're still not there. Curtis Stinson, son of Curtis Stinson, 20.9 points per game. He's unbelievable. Kiki Dang, 13 points per game. Kyle Kaysen, 12 points per game. The craziest thing about this team, Joey, is they won the state title and they were all sophomores. And now they're all juniors. And you're just like, put the 2 and 2 together, you should probably win the state title again and then again. And oh, by the way, Zay Robinson is coming back on Friday night. I did get that confirmation. So Zay will be playing on Friday night against Waukee. They get 2 tough ones right here, Waukee and Linn-Mar.
Yeah, they hadn't really, I looked at the scores and I haven't got the opportunity to watch them at all. But you only beat Urbandale by 9. That's not a good look. But like you said, you talked to the coach. So, and then Robinson will help a lot. I didn't even know when his timeline was coming back, but now that he is back. So they got 2 tough games. And then, we'll see if Linn-Mar kind of is like that. But I think they didn't really have it all the way figured out until the state tournament last year either. Yeah, we didn't really think they were going to win, and they just kind of smoked everybody and took us all by surprise. So I think they're the most talented team, and I think when they get it figured out, they'll be the best team again. So, yeah, they're solid.
Dubuque Senior at 3. They are currently still undefeated. They have wins against Davenport Central, Western Dubuque, beat Linn-Mar, like you said, beat Wahlert. That was a big game, that Linn-Mar game. Jacob Williams had 23. He's averaging 20 per contest. Tevin Schultz having a good year. Cooper Porter, Drake Medinger having a good game. Score pretty well, 66 points per contest. They're giving up only 50. That's pretty good as well. Wins against, I said their wins. Very talented team. That Linn-Mar game is going to go a long way. I'm excited to see them with more competition here as the season goes on.
Yeah, I hope you talked about that second, conference showdown. Maybe they'll get in that one. I don't think they're playing this weekend. No. Or maybe they are. So they're not playing because they hadn't been probably quite as good as those other teams as of late. But Yeah, three sophomores in their top four scoring, and then Jacob Williams is he's pretty special. He's almost averaging a double double. So, and they can get it done on both ends, and they had that win against Linmar. So that's basically, I mean, they beat Western Dubuque. That's a solid team. They beat them pretty handily, but Western Dubuque's just getting beat up all over the place. So I'm not sure if they're really all that good, but they've only got 2 wins. So, but yeah, they'll be good, and their competition will ramp up in the later half of the season too.
Linmar 7-0, or excuse me, 7-1. Excuse me,
Not
lost
7-0.
to Dubuque Senior 69-66. That's their only loss. The biggest thing about Linmar is what I said, a lot of close games. Bettendorf 55-51, Waukee 61-59, Xavier 62-59. Did beat McCaffrey and Iowa City West 76-63. So that's a good win for Linmar. Davis Kern 20 points per contest. Mason Matson, they're just a young team that just kind of is putting everything together. The defense per game is definitely interesting, giving up 60 points per game. That's not the best, but they get challenged. They get Cedar Falls here on Friday night. That's a big one. And Valley on Saturday. One big thing, because Coach Windhorst was a big key part of making this MVC CIML tournament challenge. Huge thing to watch for on Saturday. Every single team playing in that showdown or whatever has a crucial conference game on Friday night. So you really don't get a lot of time to prep. He did say that next year they want to make a day in between so you can prep, but he's like, take results on Saturday with a grain of salt, because a lot of everybody plays a conference game on Friday night and then you just boom, turn around and have to play the next day.
Yeah, we'll see if they can kind of not like falter like they have. Like they were playing so good. They're almost playing like that would be my guess is their best basketball of the year at the beginning of the year. Kind of how you want to be playing towards the end of the season. And now, I mean, they lost to Dubuque Senior. I don't know if they can regain that or get it back, or they're just that good of a team. But we'll see on Friday, and then if they can bounce back again on Valley, and if they were to take both of them out, then we know for sure that wasn't just a fluke of a run that we saw. That's a solid team.
North Scott, another team out of the Mississippi Athletic, wins against Western Dubuque, Assumption, Pleasant Valley, Bettendorf. They lost to Moline out of Illinois. Jamarian Reedus, very talented, 16 points per contest. Josiah Harrington, just a freshman. Pretty average offense and defense. They're going to be a fun one. They're just one of those that is like, we don't quite know yet. Their only losses to an out-of-state opponent. So technically, yeah, they should be ranked higher. That's why I had them higher. I think I had them at number 2 almost. And kind of going in hand with them, Cedar Falls, another team out of the Mississippi Valley, wins against Xavier and Western Dubuque. They lost by just 4 to Kennedy. And Cade Corbat, very talented. William Gertis, Anthony Galvin. They are a low-scoring team when it comes to holding teams on defense, just 49 points per contest. Like I said, they get tested on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, the North Scott loss doesn't mean anything. I looked it up. Moline, they won the state championship last year in Illinois, so they're obviously plenty talented. But it was 45-12 at halftime, so they must be either really good or North Scott's not as good. They don't probably get quite as good of the competition in the Mississippi Athletic as opposed to the Mississippi Valley, but they do have those wins, like you said, against Western Dubuque, who they beat by 20, so that's a big win. And then Cedar Falls, like that's a close loss to Kennedy, which we already discussed there. They're the best team at the moment. And then, yeah, they get two big ones and play 3A Assumption, who's really, really tough as well.
Couple CIML schools right here in a row. Waukee 7-2. Weird team. Weird team so far. Good wins. Ankeny, Centennial, Dowling only beat Johnston by 4. But they lost to Linmar on a random Saturday, and then they lost to Roosevelt 70-69. Roosevelt's a good team. I'm not throwing anything against Roosevelt, but you're just like, well, that's interesting. They shoot the 3-ball better than anyone. They're the best 3-point shooting team in the state. Mason Costello is a dog. He's a senior, 17 points per contest. Evan Jacobson, keep an eye, remember the name. He's a talented sophomore, 13 points per game and 9 rebounds per game. Couple good guys off the bench. Like I said, 5th best offense in the state, 70 points per contest. They do give up quite a bit on defense, so that's still something. Again, Joey, it seems like a common occurrence. They get tested on Friday and Saturday. Valley and then Kennedy.
This is going to be like the biggest 4A basketball weekend ever. So, but no, the Linmar loss, I don't know if it is like Linmar was just that hot, but the Roosevelt's sneaky. They're sneaky.
They
They've
are.
got some athletes, and I actually played against those guys in summer league, and I got put on like a mixtape. I'm pretty sure, but they're sneaky talented, and they've got a couple other players. They had a kid. I don't know if I have the name down or not, but he played at East for football, and now he's on Des Moines Roosevelt's basketball team. So I don't know how that works, but they're they gotta they gotta play well against Valley and see if they can compete with them, and then we're gonna see Kennedy on Saturday. Those are two of the best teams. So
Ankeny Centennial is at the 8 position with Ankeny at 9. Two very similar teams, all things considered. Ankeny did lose to Ankeny Centennial 64-52, but nonetheless, a heck of a season so far. Luke Winkle, he's playing out of his mind, 22.1 points per contest. They hung on barely last night and beat Waukee Northwest. So they're still a vulnerable team, but that win over Valley proves that they can play with really high-level opponents. Lost to Waukee, lost to Dowling. They weren't great losses by any means, but I mean they're very, very talented. 14th best in offense, 20th best in defense. So, getting there a little bit better. They do play Southeast Polk on Friday. They do not play in the CIML MVC Invitational. Ankeny wins over Johnston and then Dowling, so pretty good wins. Losses to Centennial and Waukee. Carson Johnson is the man to watch. He leads Class 5A in points per game with 24. They play Bettendorf on Saturday. This year's Ankeny team feels like the Ankeny team that went out and won the state tournament in 2020. That just kind of just was under everybody's radar, but they had scores, and you're like, any night they could go out and do something.
yeah, they're like Carson Johnson's unbelievable. He's just like my size, but he goes out there and just gets his own. And he's averaging 24, like you said. That's crazy. And they can put him up. They're the number 6 offense in 4A. They're almost scoring 70 points a game. And the two Aguirre brothers, is that how you say it? I'm
Aguirre.
not sure. Aguirre, sorry. I know they're really talented, and the younger brother even like got to. I think he played on their national team, so he's obviously got plenty of talent. And they don't play in that, or no, they play Bettendorf, who is they're probably equal in the same that they're like the 4th or the 5th team in their conference, but they're still good and they can hang with everybody. So we'll see who's the better of those two. But I do like the Ankeny team. I know they can score and they have the talent. So one of those guys is going to score a lot every game, and it seems like Johnson's going to score a lot every game.
Yeah.
But we'll see on Saturday at Bettendorf if they can take care of business.
2 more to roll through. Iowa City West, Mississippi Valley. They are 6-1. Wins against Davenport West and Liberty. They lost to Linn-Mar 76-63. Jack McCaffrey, son of head coach at Iowa, Fran McCaffrey, who has had so many sons go through Iowa City West. I think Jack's the last one, but Jack averaging 17 points per contest with 8 rebounds. It's a very talented team. They're number 4 in the state in offense, so they can score, but their defense is a little behind, 26th in defense. They play Xavier on Friday and get a good test with Dowling on Saturday, which is that correct? Yes, Dowling. Yes. Do play Dowling Catholic on Saturday. So that's a pretty even matchup, all things considered. And then Des Moines Roosevelt is the last team we wanted to mention. Beat Waukee. That's going to be a big win there's no like quadrant wins like an NCAA, but that's a quadrant 1 win if you're Roosevelt, speaking in those terms. But they do have losses to Ames 43-32. They lost to Dowling 58-43. And Joey, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure in that game it was 43-43 at the end of the 3rd quarter, and Roosevelt didn't score a single point in the 4th quarter, because I think I remember watching that. It was like a Saturday game or something like that. But Remy Taylor, very talented junior. Charlie King, a freshman, averaging 11.1 points per game. So keep an eye on Iowa City West and Roosevelt as well.
They have a big game actually against Grandview too. On Thursday they play. Hey, Grandview's sneaky. I don't know what to think about them. They got like new players every year. They got like 4 new guys that are playing. So that'll be a good game for both those guys.
We'll have to keep an eye on them as they go.
Yeah.
We'll go to 3A, which was our most controversial class, in my opinion, but it was all from the same fan base. Our 3A rankings from us at Bound: Decorah at 1, Clear Lake 2, ADM 3, Solon 4, Nevada 5, Bishop Elin 6th, MOC Floyd Valley 7th, Ballard 8th, and Xavier 9th. Waverly Shell Rock rounds out the top 10. I had Solon as my number 1 team, and I'll talk about that in a second. But Decorah is the number 1 team. as we've thought, wins over to Western Dubuque and Wahlert. The big game was Hudson. I mean, that was a big win. We'll talk about Hudson later in a lower class, but they were down by 9. Matthew Bachman had 22. Ben Bachman had 19. That's, you get any brother combination going, they're going to be tough to beat. Play Waverly Shellrock on Friday. That's a big one. Cal LaFrance, a sophomore, very talented. Just a lot of really good players. Ben Brockman, by the way, is 6'5". I don't know about you, Joey. It feels like Decorah might be the Bondurant from last year. That just kind of everything
Ooh.
came together at the right time, and it's just working.
I don't think I can agree with you that they're the Bondurant. They don't play in the Raccoon River, so it's hard to say that. They play in the north, like they do play Waverly Friday. That's a good matchup. But they won't play like the caliber teams that you'd play in the fact that Bondurant was undefeated in the Raccoon River was crazy. They were the best team, but they didn't lose. And they had some close games, and I think Decorah they might be undefeated for the whole season. I kind of compare them more to like a Kennedy last year, where the MVC wasn't as talented, but they were undefeated, but so they couldn't not be number one. But this Decorah team is special. I mean, Cale LaFrance is 6'10", and he just has his will in there, so they'll be tough. And I like to see what they do against Waverly on Friday.
Clear Lake is at 2. They are undefeated. They beat their best opponent by far, Waverly Shellrock, by 3. The biggest thing one of the notes that you had is the best team they play the rest of the year statistically is Nevada. And then after that, it's Humboldt. So if you're going to win, keep winning. That's one of the big ones. Thomas Meyer, obviously everyone knows him as the tight end. That's one of the best tight ends in the state of Iowa statistically and high school football rating wise. He's a big presence down low at 6'6". So keep an eye out for Clear Lake here. They always seem to have a good chance at the state tournament no matter what. ADM is a interesting team that I didn't think really would be up there, but ADM seems to be the team out of the Raccoon River. They beat North Polk and they beat Boone. One loss is to Dallas Center Grimes, who is a 4A team. So, take it as you will. But what do you think? What do you think of this ADM team? Beat Van Meter, very up and down team, but give me your thoughts.
They're good. I don't even know if they'll probably lose a couple more games, I think, in the Raccoon just because it's tough. But they had Adam Bright, who was their best player last year, arguably. He's averaging 15 a game, and he can really shoot. And he's struggled shooting already. Like, he's only shooting 34%, and he's averaging 15, and they're still winning games. I'm pretty sure he shot like 45% from 3 last year. And then they have a sophomore in Hudson Lorenzen, who's really didn't get to play hardly any minutes last year. He's averaging 16.4, and he's shooting almost 50% from 3. So they're going to be tough. They have a really good point guard in Stein Smith. He's one of the quickest guys I've ever seen. And then, but they did lose. They lost to DCG by like 30. And I think it was the home opener, but they'll be tough. They are actually my number 1 team. And then Clear Lake, to go back, I had them 5, actually. I know they're undefeated, but they won't play anybody. And Nevada was 5th, like you said, in our rankings. And then they lost to Rolling Story. I don't think they're that high, to be honest, but I do think Clear Lake's overrated. They, like Webster City and Clear Lake, were both like almost or maybe I think it would have been Humboldt last year, had like 1 or 2 losses, and then they lost to bad teams in substates. So I don't think they're all that. I don't think they're up there with the rest of the teams we're going to talk about, to be honest.
Solon is at number 4. I had them at number 1. They beat Marion 62-56, beat West Branch 62-53. Jake Benzing is their leader with 19 points per contest. Beat Mid Prairie 66-62. They play Maquoketa on Thursday and Benton on Friday, so a couple good games in a row. Very talented. Vance Steinbrock, Ryland Steigelmeyer, and Garrick Turner. It's a good team. Very good. They beat Grinnell, who beat Williamsburg. You didn't even put Grinnell on these notes, but they're like 25th in our index or something. But I have to give props to Grinnell because they're a talented team. They're kind of underrated. They're winning that side of the WAMAC, actually. But I just think Solon's a very well put together team.
Yeah, they'll be solid, but like you said, I don't know if the WAMAC's is good, and I don't think they venture out a whole ton. They beat Marion, and then West Branch is usually good, but they don't venture out a whole ton. So we'll see kind of if they let one slip and they take a game back, but they might be just undefeated, like you said, for the whole year. They beat Grinnell, who I did. They've only had 2 losses, I think, and they've got some sneaky wins. So I don't know. I actually had
Grinnell,
them pretty
I
low
will
in my
say
rankings.
Grinnell has been the Oski loss for Grinnell is like okay, well that's why I didn't put Grinnell in the top 10. I know Tyler did. Tyler had him at like 9 or 10, but the Oski loss threw me away from Grinnell. But other than that, I mean Carson Penich is doing a really good job down in the paint, and I mean they're a fun team to watch. Waverly Shell Rock is at the 5 position, lost to Xavier and Clear Lake. North Polk 66-55 is a win. Cole Marsh, very talented. They play Decorah on Friday, so we'll really see what Waverly Shell Rock's made out of. Should be a good height advantage. Luke Frazel 6'6", might be able to keep up with the 6'10" guy from Decorah. Bishop Heelan at the 6th spot from the Missouri River, only lost to Caledonia, out-of-state team, and Western Christian they only lost to by 3. Circle that because that makes things interesting for Bishop Heelan. And Matt Knoll is out of his mind this year.
Yeah, the Western Christian loss, I think they could even they're good every year. They are always at the top and nobody really likes them, but they're good and they'll probably compete for the 2A state title again. So I don't think that means a whole lot to me. And Matt Nollier is averaging 24 and a half. That's crazy. Hey, he's going to Wayne State, it said on his Instagram. So shout out to him. I think, and then go back to Waverly, I think they'll get rolled by Decorah, if I'm being honest. I think Decorah. I've heard some of my friends from up there just say there's something special, and they did only beat Hudson, and Hudson's solid, but they only beat them by 10, so that's kind of iffy. But I think they'll roll Waverly, and then Bishop Heelan, they'll be a good team. They don't play quite as good of competition over there in Western Iowa, but maybe they'll play some better games in the second half of the season. So.
Xavier, number 7, only losses to Linn-Mar and Cedar Falls plus Cedar Rapids, Washington. They beat Liberty 49-47. I don't think they're quite the team that went to the state championship game last year, but I think they're still pretty talented. They play Iowa City West on Friday, and then they play Marion on Saturday. MOC Floyd Valley, kind of one of the weird teams thrown in here. They are at the number 8 position. I think I know why they're number 8. They're not ranked they're ranked on the boys' side. Is that correct? What's the non-ranking in NA?
Oh, that was something else. That's from me. I put my rankings down for what I had on there.
Oh, okay. So
no,
here's the thing with MOC Floyd Valley that I think is getting people. Their only losses to Scott Catholic, who's out of state, and then West Lyon, who is our number 1 team by 19. So I wouldn't fully put my trust in MOC Floyd Valley just yet. Still good, nonetheless.
Yeah, I don't think they're. I had Xavier a little higher up, but now that I'm looking at it, I don't think that I really think as high of them. I think MOC's out, and Assumption, we're going to talk about them in a little bit. They need to be up. Those are some of the people that went off in our comments, but I had them higher than, and so, but no, I don't think MOC. I don't. Jesse Van Klesbeek, he's averaging 21. He's solid, but they won't play many other. They play a Lamar's team on Thursday. They won't play much of other competition, so they have to beat the teams. Like they beat a 2A Unity Christian only 62-49, and if you're the number 8 team, you should beat a mediocre 2A team pretty good, I think.
Right.
And then Xavier's got 3 losses already. But Linn-Mar and Cedar Falls are both ranked, so yeah, they got two big games on this weekend and Friday, so we'll see how they turn out after the weekend.
Let's talk about the controversial team. Assumption is at 9 in the boys' rankings. They are 26th in the Bound Power Index. They lost to North Scott, Pleasant Valley, and Davenport West. They beat Wahlert Catholic. They play Bettendorf Thursday and Cedar Falls on Saturday. They have Navon Shabazz, who is an offer from Iowa State, averaging 15.6 points per game. Damon Jackson, averaging 14.3. Why does everybody think this team should be ranked?
I think they got a lot of talent, actually. I don't know. Like, only win against Wahlert isn't as impressive, but
you lost to Davenport West. I don't care if it's 4A.
That's true. They've competed with some teams. I don't know. I kind of agree with you. I think they're better. I just think they're better than some of these teams that we had above them. I think they're better
Right.
than Nevada. They're better than MOC. They're better than. I just think they're better than them,
And
talent wise.
the only thing I'll say is, again, it goes back to the assume that I think that's what a
Yeah,
lot of their people are thinking. They're like, well, we would beat Nevada in a one-on-one come March. I mean, we're the best. It's like, okay, but you're not right now. I mean, you haven't beat the people that you need to beat. I'll tell you what, if they beat Bettendorf and Cedar Falls on Saturday, they're going in my top 5. If they sweep them, I will put them in my top 5. But they have to
yeah.
sweep them because
You got.
seriously, I mean, I'm just saying, I get it. People like to say, "Oh, where's my team?" But like, so many people are like, "Oh, there's no assumption or whatever." I'm just like, even the association puts assumption at 9. I'm just like, man, I just don't know about this one.
I. Oh, I don't know. Well, I hope they. Maybe they'll shut up those Instagram guys if they just lose. So hopefully they watch this. But yeah, I don't know. This is a rankings. Like you got to understand, it's a rankings. It's not like a power,
Oh,
not a
you'd be
power
surprised
rankings. There's difference.
how many people see a number next to their team name and they just lose their mind.
They're different. They're different. They're
It's a
not. They're
thing.
just different.
It's a
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, so Williamsburg at number 10. They lost to Grinnell. My Grinnell Tigers took care of business. They were down by 10 going into the fourth. Grinnell was able to hang on. Derek Weiskopf, the talented linebacker, quarterback, all of the above, averaging 20 points per contest with 7 rebounds. Ballard, another team that we wanted to possibly bring up. They've lost to Bondurant, ADM. They play North Polk tomorrow night or last night. Either something was there.
I
It
think it's
can't count out.
they took care of Norfolk. I think
Okay,
pretty good
so
last night.
can never count out Ballard because they lost in the title game a couple years ago to Pella, so they're still pretty talented. Hampton Dumont, Cal, Carroll, just naming a couple others here because we're only 2 classes in and we're 30 minutes in, but just kind of naming a couple others. Any else in 3A that you wanted to chat about?
I watched Bondurant play. They're at 10 in our bound power index. I watched Tanner Berggren drop 37 on Gilbert's head. So that wasn't very fun to watch as a Gilbert fan, but it was fun to watch as a high school basketball fan. It was pretty impressive. He was hitting fadeaways like crazy. They're talented. That Carroll team, they have Evan Hammer. He's averaging 23 and 11 rebounds, so he's really talented. And then yeah, that Ballard team actually gets back one of their better role players from last year. Miles Mudd is coming back from an ACL, so he would have been similar maybe to a Xavier Robinson for last year for Valley. So I think they will make a huge jump actually. So I had them ranked pretty high in mine. I had them pretty high in my rankings. So watch out for Ballard is all I gotta say.
Sweet. We'll go to
Yep.
2A. West Lyon was our number 1 team. We don't have the bound ones. I'll have to pull them up on Instagram, but West Lyon, number 1 on the association side. They're out of the Siouxland. They beat Central Lyon 69-64. Took care of Remsen, took care of Boyden Hull, MOC Floyd Valley, Hinton. Really good team. They play Unity Christian, who will be a tough challenge on Friday, but overall, statistically, they look like they're the best team.
Yeah, they play a pretty tough defense. Carson, it's Carson Hoogiven. That's a pretty good name. That might be all-state name right there. He's averaging 12.9 points per game. And then they have 9 other guys averaging over 5 points. So it's pretty spread out, and anybody can do anything. They won't probably have quite the competition, but they're solid. They maybe play Western Christian sometime this year. I'm not sure, but they're really good, and they're a pretty complete team, and they've kind of took care of everybody pretty good, except for Central Lyon gave them a good game. So
yeah, it's one of those that's going to be really interesting as a toss up. I mean, they're as of right now, they are the top, and there's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I'm excited to see how everything shakes out the rest of the way. So I don't know. We'll see how it works. I just pulled up the 2A rankings. So our 2A rankings: West Lyon, Western Christian, Hudson at 3, Underwood 4, Roland Story, Monticello, Osage, Kemper, West Burlington, and North Fayette Valley. Number 2, Western Christian, can never count them out. They've only lost like 9 games in the last 6 years, some crazy stat like that. They lost to Dakota Valley, out-of-state opponent. And then they beat Bishop Heelan 64-61. Caden Van Regenmorter is just, I mean, he's leading the charge. He is absolutely leading the charge. They beat Sergeant Bluff Luton. I mean, they're very talented, and you can never count them out. I mean, Van Regenmorter seems like he's the star, and they're going to have to really heavily lean on them, but I'm never not picking Western Christian as one of the top teams.
No, yeah, and it just like makes everybody mad. They're so good every year, and they'll be there at the end. They might just like they were in the championship, I think, last year. They win it last year? No,
I don't think they did. I think they did.
I don't know. They might have. So, but they're really tough, and that win against Bishop Heelan is a pretty big win. They're really good this year. So I think they'll roll kind of for a large portion of the rest of the year, and then a lot of these 2A teams they're kind of more spread out, so they'll just go into the postseason and they'll only have like one or two losses just because the competition's not quite as there. And I think Western Christian's one of those teams.
Monticello is the number 3 team. They are number 6 on our ranking, so number 3 here. Beat Cascade 61-57, beat Beckman, Preston Rees, who, by the way, just won Gatorade Player of the Year in football today. Congratulations, Preston. He's playing football at the University of Iowa. He's been really good this year, averaging 22 per contest. They haven't really played anyone this year, so I think we're still kind of waiting on that. But, you know, they're still good. They made it to the state tournament before in an upper class. I think they went in 3A a couple of years ago. But, I mean, fun team. And then I'll go right with them, Hudson, which is a lot of people's favorites. A lot of people really like Hudson. And I know some people put Hudson number 1 in our polls. I do know that for a fact because your only losses to Decorah. You beat Denver, you beat Dike New Hartford. Camden Davis is tearing it up. 2 very talented teams.
I put Hudson number 1 actually.
Yeah.
They beat like a Dike team who's always kind of just like pretty good. They beat them by like almost 40. So, and then Decorah, if Decorah's that good and then you only lost by 8, then you're obviously pretty solid. And that's why I put them number 1. They were up by 9 to start the third quarter. So after the first half, they're up by 9, and then they're down by 5 to start the fourth. So they got smoked in the third quarter. So if it's just one quarter that gets them that good, and then they lose to the best team in 3A, then I think they're the best team in 2A. And then they shot 3 for 18 from deep, and then they still only lost by 8. So they're obviously pretty good. Monticello, Unbound, they have the 221st schedule rank so far this year, and they're 10-0. They're just smacking teams, and their opponent's record's 48-66. So, and I don't even know if they'll play anybody for the rest of the year. They probably won't. So they're going to be one of those teams that's undefeated, and we'll see if they can handle in the postseason. So,
right. Kemper Catholic at 5. This is a fun team. Only lost to Carroll on a buzzer beater, if I'm not mistaken. So close to being undefeated. Brock Badding's having a great year. Had 30 against Kingsley Pearson. He's averaging 14 points per contest. DJ Vanamy, he's only averaging 9.8 points per game, but he's 6'4", so that adds a little bit of height. Roland Story at the 6th position. They were number 5 in our rankings. Everybody is circled this team because of one guy, and that is Wilkinson. Wilkinson has been everywhere this year, and I think with him averaging 27 per game, unfortunately, they're going to have themselves circled on everybody's schedule, but beat Nevada, who is our top 5 team in Class 3A. Roland Story could be a very sneaky team here.
They lost a lot from last year, but they bring back probably the best player in 2A. He is unbelievable, and he's in some of these, like he's just carrying the team in some of these wins. They need Boaz Clark, who's a friend of mine. He's got to step up a little bit more if they really want to be, because if you shut Wilkinson down, it's pretty tough for them to win. They only beat PCM by 3, and Jonathan had 26 so of their 41 points. Yeah. I think they're that good. They play a tough 2-3 zone, and they're really, really hard to play at home because their gym's really small and they can play that 2-3. Actually, nobody really likes playing there. So I think they'll win out really they took care of Iowa Falls, I think, last night pretty handily. And then to go back, this Kemper team, Brock Bading, he's pretty much a sniper. He went 10 for 15 the other night and had 30 points. So he's about only shooting 3-pointers, and their only loss is to Carroll. So I think they're good. I think I actually had them third in mine. They're just like they got a lot of solid players, and then they add Bading, who didn't get a whole ton of minutes last year, and I think they made the state tournament last year, so they'll be there. I think they're tough, and they'll have some tough games in the Hawkeye 10. So
Absolutely. Underwood at 7, kind of a tough spot. They're number 4 on ours. They won by an average of 30 every single game. Beat AHSTW, St. Albert. They play Trainer on Thursday. Mason Boothby, Owen Larson, or Mason Boothby, Josh Ravlin. I don't know if you meant to put Owen Larson because Owen Larson's from ELC. I don't know if you just
I
threw
think
that.
I think there's another Owen Larson.
Okay, there's another Owen Larson. Okay,
yeah.
So there's another Owen Larson here on Underwood. A lot of football guys. Very talented West Underwood team. Pella Christians at 8. I don't care who you are. You can't count out Pella Christian. They literally play in the Little Hawkeye when they're not playing non-conference games. They learn to play tough teams, and they will always beat you in the sub-state. They literally almost upset the number 1 team in the state last year in the first round of the tournament. So Pella Christian's always tough. Grandview Christian, despite literally having a new team, is still unbelievable. They have another 6'9" guy who's averaging 28 per contest. And then Central Lyon, a team that we did not have in the top 10, currently sits at the 10 position in the boys rankings, 5-4. Reese Vanderzee, the Hawkeye commit, is headed to Iowa to play football. He's averaging 28 per game.
Yeah, if I look at all 4 of those teams we just talked about, Grandview is really the only one that kind of sticks out to me. They lost to North Maquoketa and then Scott, who's an out-of-state team. But they're just like they just bring so many guys in, and then Emiliano, he's averaging 28 and then 16 and a half rebounds is just crazy. I mean, it helps that he's 6'9".
Yeah.
So, but they've like got a couple other sophomores, and then he's only a junior. So, and then Noah John, he was on their team last year. He's averaging 11 points. He was a senior that was they won the state title. I don't know why I said that. Well, no, they were in 1A last year.
Yeah.
But they won the 1A title, and now they're in 2A. I still think they're tough. They got that game against Roosevelt, so we'll see. And then they play Trainer on Saturday. I do want to shout out Jack Miller. I don't know if you saw this clip. He plays for
Jessup. The Jessup kid. Yeah, we posted about.
Did you
clip.
See that? He had like 40 points. Did you post the dunk?
Yes, we posted that originally. We did it before Iowa Chill did.
Oh yeah, okay. Iowa Chill, you're not as cool. That was crazy.
Yeah,
that was unbelievable.
We need Jack Miller and Jessup to make it a state so we can watch Jack Miller at state.
Please, Jack, pop off a little. You need to average 35 points, not 29. Okay.
Yeah.
But
a couple other teams.
Yeah, I had.
Oh, go ahead.
No. I didn't have anything else to say. Well, actually, maybe you're going to talk. This East Sac County team's pretty good. I don't know if they haven't lost yet. So, and they haven't played quite as good of teams. I think they have a tough game this week if I'm right. But yeah, go ahead. Let me find this real quick.
I was just going to quickly run through the rest here on 2A, just a couple of ones to break up. West Burlington, they're number 9 in our top 10. Not a tough schedule, but they should win their way in. They lost to Pella Christian last year to get to the state tournament. So as long as they avoid the Eagles, they might be okay. South Hamilton, another team out of the heart of Iowa, beat West Marshall, but lost to Nevada. Really fun team. Rylan Euban having a great year. Ty Connick having a good year as well. They play PCM. East Sac County, like you said, Van Meter, interesting team. A couple losses, Madrid, Kemper, Earlham, DMC, and ADM, but 2 of those games were not by much. 3 of those games were not by much. They play Ogden and Appleton Parkersburg coming up. Unity Christian, always a tough team. North Fayette Valley, their only losses to Key, and Key is like our number 3 or 4 team in Class 1A. They hung on and beat MFO Marmac 56-55. Osage 10-0. They're 8-0. They play West Fork. Should be a fun, or Osage is 10-0, excuse me. They sit at number 8 in our position, DMC, like I talked about. And then Essaville Lincoln Central, can't throw them out. Owen Larson is one of the best players in the state. So,
yeah, they're East Sac County actually plays Kemper. I think it's on Friday or on Saturday, so that'll be a good one.
There you go. All right, we'll jump to our last class. North Lynn is the number 1 team on the boys ranking side. They are number 3 in our ranking. They've beaten teams by an average of 53 points per game. They play Waco on Thursday. They beat Waco 56-42. Maquoketa Valley, a win against. Mason Beechan's having a great year. A couple other guys. You can never count out North Lynn. I mean, it's just like Western Christian. You can't just throw out North Lynn.
Yeah, they might be they're the powerhouse in 1A, and they always are. So they lost I think they lost to Granby last year in the championship, and they had gotten
Yeah.
them the year before. So maybe they're going for the back-to-back this year. I don't know. There's actually some tough competition right below them. So
How about this team? This team kind of came out of nowhere, and I had to look, and I put them as my number one in Class 1A, and they are our number one in Class 1A. Marquette Catholic out of the Tri-Rivers Conference beat Appleton Parkersburg 63-53, 66-53, excuse me. Spencer Roder had 15 points and 17 rebounds, beat Calamus Wheatland where they forced 36 turnovers. Eli Scott, Caden Kettman, Cannon Still, all averaging over 11 points per game. Marquette Catholic is one of the teams to beat this year.
yeah, they're tough. They've won some big games. My dad watched them play actually, and he said he's like, well, they'd compete with Gilbert in 3A, and I was like, well, that's a high praise of a 1A team, especially one that we didn't really think about coming into the year. But they got some talent. That Roder kid, he's tall and he's strong in there. He's almost averaging a double double, and yeah, they got some other key role players. I think they'll be fun to watch. I think they have a couple tough games down the road, but they won't play much for the rest of the season. So
Earlham at number 3 in the boys' rankings. They are number 5 in ours. This is a low-scoring team. They do not score a lot of points, but they know how to win. They beat Van Meter 47-46, beat Interstate 80 or Interstate 35, excuse me, 48-39, AHSTW 43-31. So they're not scoring a lot of points, but even scoring, Blake Reynolds leads the way for them. Madrid at number 4, another team that beat Van Meter, or only losses to Van Meter, excuse me, beat Ogden 60-34. Eli Severson Torrance Severson having a great year, 6 points, or he's 6'4", he's averaging 23 points per contest. Fabian Ortiz Alanes averaging 8 rebounds per game and 17 points per game. Madrid's going to be tough. South O'Brien, I almost put South O'Brien in my top 3. They are undefeated,
oh,
wins against Akron,
oh.
Westfield, and Remsen and Hinton, George Little Rock, Harris Lake Park. Derek Paulson's averaging 20 per game, but Joey, another one of those teams that doesn't really play anybody.
No, they'll get another shot at Akron, Westfield, and Remsen. So I think if you want them to be that top 3 team, they can, but they got to beat those guys more handily. Remsen's a solid team, and we haven't seen a whole ton of them. But like this Madrid team, I really do like. I had them number 2. They play in the West Central, so they get to play some of those higher class teams. They beat Van Meter, like we said, and then they play ACGC Friday, so that'll be a big game. But I don't. Earlham, they played last night. They only beat Woodward Granger 49-43, and Woodward Granger has they're just not there compared to other teams. So I was kind of shocked by that. I also put by their name. I don't know why they have blue in there as one of their colors. Do you know that?
Oh, Unbound?
Yeah, but no, one of their colors is blue because if you've ever played them, they have blue stuff,
Really?
which is crazy, and they
Interesting.
have the Louisville logo. That's just random, but I had to put it in there.
Winfield Mount Union at 6. Basically, everyone on their football team is playing basketball for them. Cam Buffington, Abram Edwards, very talented team. Could have a chance to make some noise here. Their only loss is to Illinois Bluffs, so an out-of-state school. Keota and Key at the 7 and 8 position. They are 2 and 4 in our rankings. I had a tough time differentiating these two teams. I think they're very even. Cole Kindred for Keota, he can really ball out. Their schedule the rest of the way is really favorable. Sawyer Stout's also really good. And then Key beat Postville, South Winneshiek, and Alburnett. Alburnett 1-0, or that was one of those overtime games. Beat New Hampton, beat Waukon. The best team that's left is North Fayette Valley. North Fayette Valley, number 10 in our 2A rankings. Jordan Cota, 6'5". So Key and Keota could be sneaky teams if you ask a couple people.
Yeah, that Kyoto win against Linville that's a good win for them, and that's going to have to carry them for the rest of the year because they won't probably play quite the competition again for the rest of the year. So, and then the key team's good. Those are a couple of good wins. The Alburnett win is a good one, and then New Hampton, who's a 3A or a 2A team, that's a good win. They have a 6'5" kid, so that always helps with the smaller classes if you can have a guy that tall. And then, yeah, I think both those teams will be solid. They'll probably be. I would assume they'll be undefeated towards the end of the season as well. So,
Never know. Have to see how it shapes out. Let's look at
Yeah.
quickly through a couple of the rest of the other ones here. Remsen St. Mary's out of the War Eagle. Tough team. They do have losses to West Lyon and South O'Brien, so two of the better teams that they've faced. They beat Hinton by 3. They play Kingsley Pearson on Thursday and then George Little Rock on Friday. Colin Homan leads the team in 16 points per contest. Top 6 leading scorers are all juniors, though, so I think we know who our number 1 team in 2025 is going to be. Linville Sully at the number 10 position out of the South Iowa Cedar League. They lost to Kyoto, but other than that, they've been rolling. They're number 10 in our rankings as well. Clayton Van Dyke, he's 6'6". He's balling out. Coon Rapids Bayard, another team to keep an eye out on at 11. ACGC at 12. Baxter 13. Lake Mills, another team that you have to watch out for that is always good at the state tournament. Ankeny Christian was number 9 in our rankings, and their only losses to Madrid. I was surprised that the association didn't have Ankeny Christian ranked.
Yeah, they really don't play anybody, but I think they are good. I mean, the Madrid loss, that's like Madrid's good. They're one of the top teams.
Yeah.
They're on bound. Their schedule ranking is 333rd. That's not ideal, but they are 9-1, so you can't overlook them. This Woodbine team is solid too. And then that Zyra team, I don't know, Zyra EHK or something
Xeria,
like that. Okay, maybe Xeria, but they're solid too, and they have some tough losses. But all these teams are pretty good. I actually do like that Lake Mills team a lot. They were 2A last year, and then they made the tournament. But they haven't had a game under 20 points, so they're except for their one loss. So they wish they lost to North Union, which was kind of interesting. I think they'll be tough. They won't play as many teams going on the rest of the stretch of the season, but I think they're good. And coming from 2A down to 1A has got to be an advantage for them.
Absolutely. So that's our rundown of 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A. We'll kind of have shorter next week because we won't have to go over as many teams. We'll just kind of go over games and whatnot. Joey, let's quickly run through our games this week that we want to predict and go through. Couple good games this week. We got Earlham taking on East Sac County, or excuse me, Kemper taking on East Sac County. You were pretty heavy on East Sac County. You rolling with them?
No, I actually like both these teams, but Kemper, I had 2, I think, in my rankings. I think they're solid. The only loss coming to Van Meter, or sorry, to Carroll on that buzzer beater, and Carroll's solid. So I think Kemper's my favorite actually to win the 2A state title. So I'm rolling with them.
I'll roll with Kemper as well. Des Moines Christian takes on Earlham. I'm gonna roll with Des Moines Christian.
I have Des Moines Christian too. That loss, or not the loss, the win against Woodward, but only by 6, kind of scares me a little bit about Earlham, and I think their ranking will drop after DMC gets them.
One of the first games of the CIML MVC Invitational. Technically, this is 2 just MVC teams playing each other, but they're playing at Alliant Energy Powerhouse on Saturday. Cedar Falls takes on Linmar. 2 very talented teams, 2 teams running up here in the rankings. I'm going to take Cedar Falls.
I don't know. I think Linmar will pick it back up.
If Linmar beats Cedar Falls, I will be very high on Linmar.
I don't know what to think. I think if you win all those games, they won so many of those tough games in a row that it wasn't a fluke. I think they're solid. And then the Dubuque senior loss, we know they're good. So I think they'll pick it back up, and then maybe they can compete on Saturday with Valley. So
absolutely. Madrid taking on ACGC. Got to roll with the Tigers.
Yeah, Madrid's tough this year. That little point guard, he's really good. He's averaging 8 assists per game. He's solid, so they'll take care of business with ACGC.
Xavier taking on Iowa City West. Talented Xavier team taking off McCaffrey and the boys at Iowa City West. I'll give the advantage to the Trojans.
Okay, yeah, I think West will get them. I think Xavier's kind of overrated, to be honest. They're not what they were last year. They lost some pieces, and I think West is solid. They only have the one loss to Linmar, and I think they're solid.
Waukee taking on Valley. I'm calling this game, so I won't pick it. Who you got?
I'll roll with the Tigers with Zay's return. He's going to come back and drop 20. If he's 100, he's going to put up 20 on Waukee. I think they'll take him.
Decorah taking on Waverly Shell Rock. Do the Vikings slip here? Do they go Hawks?
I think I'm going to take Decorah. I think they're really solid, and they have the length that Waverly doesn't. So we'll see. Maybe Waverly can make some noise, and maybe Decorah is not the team we think they are, but I'm going to roll with the Vikings.
Assumption taking on Cedar Falls. Well, I already said if Assumption beats Cedar Falls and Bettendorf, I'm putting them in my top 10. But I think Cedar Falls is pretty good, so I'm gonna roll with Cedar Falls.
I'll go with Assumption. I'll give
There
them
you go.
some hope. I'll give the Instagrammers some hope. I'll pick Assumption.
There you go. Valley taking on Linmar. Everything depends on that Friday. I think if Linmar loses Friday night, I think it's whoever loses on Friday will really have to wake up the very next day. I'll give Valley just a slight advantage here.
I think Valley wins both of those games, and then I have Waukee against Kennedy in the next game, and I think Valley takes the number 1 spot back, to be honest.
Who do you have winning? You have Waukee beating Kennedy?
Yeah, I think Waukee will win. Kennedy will get their first loss, and then I think they'll have to give it back to Valley, even if they're. So I think they'll take the number 1 spot back after the weekend, to be honest.
I'm going to say Kennedy beats Waukee.
All right.
High scoring.
All right.
It'll be very high scoring.
Yeah.
But it'll be a fun
Kennedy
one.
can play defense too, so
yeah, that's the nightcap.
We'll see.
So
yeah, that'll be good.
We'll see, but all right. Well, that's all we got, and my computer's at 10%, so it's a good thing we're wrapping up. That is our wrap for us on the Bound to Talk Basketball boys basketball episode. We'll get this out as soon as we can. Appreciate everyone for watching. Make sure to like, share, and everything else on YouTube. Subscribe if you're new. Share it on all of our social medias. We appreciate everyone for watching. We will see everyone next week. He is Joey. I am Blake. We will see everyone next week.